and welcome to the Talk Villa podcast. I'm your host, Samit Paul, and unfortunately, we are looking back at a really disappointing defeat to Fulham in the Premier League on Saturday afternoon. Ryan Sessegnon's goal just before half-time was all that split the two sides in the end, but it was a frustrating performance from Villa as we were wasteful in front of goal and ultimately we got punished for it. It's far from ideal preparation for the Europa League semi-final tie against Nottingham Forest this week, but it could be a timely reminder in terms of avoiding mistakes that have led to previous disappointments. More on that shortly, but as with every game, I'll be discussing my 5 key talking points as we have a deeper dive into our defeat to Fulham. But first, let's have a listen to the boss, Unai Emery, and his thoughts on the game as he spoke to Villa TV.
Good afternoon. We expected this match. We expected this match because we respect them and we knew before the match we needed defense like we did, being compact and disciplined tactically as a team and individual as well, like we did it. But even like that, we could concede one goal like we conceded. And then when we were with our momentum, dominating, breaking their high press, getting their box, we had chances in corner, we had chances in their box, 4 very good chances, two Watkins, one Tammy and one Morgan, and some crosses. I think normally with those circumstances, we could expect before the match, we were being positive to achieve something. But we must be clinical when we are creating chances like today. I was frustrated a little bit because just in Nottingham 2 weeks ago, we had the same chances like today, Watkins today again, and Tammy Abraham. And this is something we must continue improving and practicing to be clinical when we are creating and building in attacking third one action like that. Yes, keep balance, but it's still being difficult. And this is my message. We must continue fighting and being focused in Premier League. And then next week we are going to play in Nottingham Europa League. We are going to focus this match. But we have 25%. 25%, we are in semi-final. There are another 3 teams with us, 25% each team, to play the final. And still, of course, work to do and to be ready for now, for the next Thursday. But of course, Premier League is not done.
That was Unai Emery speaking to Villa TV after our 1-0 defeat to Fulham this weekend. So on to my 5 key talking points then, and let's start with a lack of intensity being a recurring problem for Villa. Now, how many times have we questioned the lack of intensity in a Villa performance, which subsequently leads to a disappointing result? There is undoubtedly for me a direct correlation between the two, as once again this weekend we saw a Villa display that was bereft of intensity and urgency, particularly in the early stages when we should be setting a marker down. Now, I do admit that there is a fine balance with this. When we do play this conservative and energy-saving way of playing and we win, then we look at it in a more positive light and we say, yeah, we managed the game really well. We've not the energy-sapping display that affects us further down the line, and we've got the 3 points, so all is well in the world. But like I say, there is a very fine balance between that and being way too passive. Now, with the away leg against Forest rapidly approaching in midweek, if we adopt this same conservative and passive approach against Forest in what will be a lively atmosphere and with them pressing the life out of us in the opening stages of that game, there is little doubt in my mind that we'll encounter the exact same problems that we have in previous games and we did this weekend. We have to start games with the right intensity and urgency to get on the front foot and dictate the tempo of these games, because I feel as though once we get into that safe and passive and slow tempo and approach, we feel as though we're managing the game, but we're just not. We're just setting ourselves up to get punished if we don't take our chances. And in this game, we did not take our chances. And that takes me on to the second point that I wanted to talk about. And that is a wasteful Villa getting punished. Now, despite our lack of intent and quality across the game as a whole, we were still able to create good openings. The likes of Morgan Rogers, Ollie Watkins, Tammy Abraham did most of the heavy lifting themselves, but ultimately they failed to find the target with the chance that presented itself. Now, had we been more clinical, we would have come away from this game with a very different outcome, although we may well have still have question marks lingering over the performance as a whole, but those opportunities came and went. Now, if Villa aren't at our very sharpest over the next month or so, we are going to get punished against the level of opposition that we're facing with the minimal margin for error that we've got at this stage of the season with so much on the line. And so the biggest talking point for me from this game, aside from the intensity side of things, which I still think is a major problem that keeps coming back to bite us, we cannot afford to squander these chances moving forward. Otherwise, like I say, we will get punished. On to the third point, and that is Amadou Onana's absence being a crucial blow. Now, concerningly, Emery conceded in his post-match interview that it's unclear at this stage if Onana's going to be available on Thursday. Now, injuries are a part and parcel of the game. We've been dealing with it all season, and we are where we are despite those setbacks. But particularly since Boubacar Kamara's setback, the presence of Onana in the heart of our midfield has been critical. I think his physicality and his ability to cover so much ground alone make him a really fundamental figure in our midfield. And when you combine that with Youri Tielemans, it's a really, really effective duo. But I think his composure and his attributes as a whole impact both phases of the game, and that makes him a vital cog in our push for success in the coming weeks. And so, obviously, we hope that he's recovered and he's available to start against Forest on Thursday. But if he is forced to miss that game, then hopefully he's back next Sunday to help us finish the job off in the Premier League. Now, Ross Barkley is ineligible to feature on Thursday because he's not in the Europa League squad. So my inkling is that Douglas Luiz will get the nod next to Youri Tielemans in that double pivot. On to the fourth point, and that is our away form being a concern. Now, it's been over 3 months since Villa's last win on the road in the Premier League, which doesn't bode particularly well for Thursday night. Now, it's obviously a European tie. It's the Europa League semi-finals, but given that it's Forest, I do feel as though the tempo is going to replicate that of a Premier League game. And Villa have not performed well enough in recent weeks in difficult assignments on the road. Now, Emery singled out our poor finishing as a point of emphasis from this game, as he was frustrated with the result and not the performance. But we'll have to find answers to end this poor run of form away from home in our next game. Otherwise, it could prove really costly. And while I do agree with him, if we were more clinical with our finishing, it's a different story and we could well be talking about 3 points. But I do feel as though the performance needs to improve and pick up as well. I don't think it's anywhere near the standard that it needs to be at this stage of the season with the games that we've got coming up. So I think the performance needs to improve and the finishing needs to improve. The fifth and final point is that this is hopefully a timely reminder to learn from past mistakes. Now, Villa have come up short in big games over the past 2 seasons, whether it was against Olympiacos, Crystal Palace, Manchester United, across the Europa Conference League, FA Cup and Premier League. I'm sure there's other games that others will allude to as well, being in the same boat. But this game felt like those games in the sense that we didn't really turn up and produce our best. And the contest essentially just drifted by us and we could not produce the answers to get back into it. Now, admittedly, Villa have picked up 19 points from losing positions in the Premier League this season. So this is not me questioning character, belief. Like we are capable of turning games around and we've shown that ability. But if we start games better with the intensity and urgency that I'm speaking about and a lot of fans are talking about, we won't have to keep finding ourselves in the position to come from behind and rescue something and salvage something from games. Now, hopefully, it will prove to be a relief come the end of the season that we've fallen into the same trap in a game that won't mean too much in the bigger picture. If we beat Tottenham next week, take a massive step towards a top 5 finish, then we'll kind of forget this Fulham game and think, we slipped up, but ultimately we got the job done in the games that we needed to. So in the bigger picture, hopefully it doesn't mean too much, but I think it's a perfectly timed reminder for all concerned that if we're not at it from start to finish, particularly at the start, but through the game, taking our chances and being clinical at both ends of the pitch, we are going to be left with the same disappointment that we've experienced in previous seasons once again. So like I say, hopefully this is a timely reminder that we've slipped up in this game, and with massive, massive games coming up, we're able to learn our lessons and really step on it from the first minute and play with the approach that's needed in those games to get the desired result. So what were your talking points from our loss at Fulham? Let me know your thoughts. If you're listening on YouTube, please leave your comments below. For those listening to the pod via Apple Podcasts, Spotify or other means, please head over to talkvilla.substack.com and get involved in the conversation over there. So that's a wrap on this episode of the Talk Villa podcast. As always, a big thank you for taking the time to have a listen. Please do subscribe to the pod or channel depending on where you're listening. So that's either on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or YouTube. Give the episode a like or leave a positive review if you've enjoyed it. That would be very much appreciated. And you can also sign up to the Talk Villa Plus newsletter on Substack for ad-free Villa news, opinion and analysis, all delivered directly to you. And there is also an option of a paid subscription for bonus content. All the details will be in the description of this podcast, but for more, please go to talkvilla.substack.com and subscribe. So it's not only a really disappointing performance, but a poor result as we missed the opportunity to take a big step towards qualifying for the Champions League next season through a top 5 finish in the Premier League. As I said earlier, it may well prove to be irrelevant come the end of the season, but it's a disappointing setback ahead of a massive game on Thursday, and Unai Emery and the players now have to bounce back and produce a much improved performance to ensure we avoid similar disappointment at Forest. I'll be back later this week to discuss that first leg encounter with Nottingham Forest, but until then, up the Villa.